Shalom. First, I want to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKadosh, and double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone from whom I learned this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 elect. I am Mayak Allah. And I'm coming to you, bringing you part 8. How do I know? How do I know that I am a Hebrew Israelite, or how do I know that we are the Hebrew Israelites? And when I say we, I'm referring to the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans of this land. And when we last left off in part 7, we were in the book of Genesis, finishing up chapter 27. And I'm going to go on to 28 and just make a few points that I wanted to touch on in this chapter, as it's a short chapter. And this is the chapter where we find Jacob being sent away from his brother Esau, because Esau was plotting to kill him once their father had passed, their father Isaac. So I'm just going to read in Genesis chapter 28, and I'm going to read 1 through 6. So I'm not going to read the whole chapter. I know I gave you the whole chapter 27 in the last video I did, but on this one I'm not going to give you the whole chapter. I'm just going to jump around a bit, so this might be a little short, but we're going to take our time, and Lord willing we'll get through all the major points that I wanted to get through on this journey, as we see how we know that we're the Hebrew Israelites. And this is chapter 28. I'm start at verse 1. It says, "And Isaac called Jacob, and blessed him, and charged him, and said unto him, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan." So Isaac is telling his son Jacob, just as he was told by Abraham, to not take a daughter of Canaan. Verse 2 says, "Arise and go to Padanaram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother." So he wanted to make sure that he was getting kinfolk once again. Verse 3, it says, "And Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Almighty, bless thee, and make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, that thou mayest be a multitude of people, and give thee the blessing of Abraham to thee, and to thy seed with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land wherein thou art a stranger, which the Most High gave unto Abraham." And Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went to Padanaram unto Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob and Esau's mother. It says, verse 6, "When Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob, and sent him away to Padanaram to take him a wife of thence, and that he was blessed, and that as he blessed him, he gave him a charge, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan." So he's being very specific here to let him know that he did not want him to take a wife from the land that they were in. I'm just going to drop down to verse 8. It says, "And Esau, seeing that the daughters of Canaan pleased not Isaac his father, then went Esau unto Ishmael, and took unto the wives which he had Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife. So being his nature that he wanted to go against what his father wished for them, is he didn't want them to take of the daughters of Canaan. And that's exactly what he did, because Abraham, his grandfather, had the son Ishmael, and Ishmael was of that land Canaan. So he took Ishmael's daughter. So he's just being rebellious, which is the nature of Esau Edom. And I'm going to go down to verse 11. It says, and he lighted up on a certain place, this being Jacob, and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took off the stones of that place and put them for his pillows, and lay down in that place to sleep. And I wanted to read that verse because it's kind of significant that he slept on a stone. So you can only imagine what kind of hair he had. He didn't have sheepish type hair. It would have had to have been fluffy hair, woolly hair. I'm going to 12 and read 12 through 14. In verse 12 it says, and he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, and behold, the angels of the Most High ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord Yahweh stood above it and said, I am the Lord Yahweh of Abraham thy father, and the power of Isaac. The land wherein thou liest, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed. Verse 14, and thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west and to the east, and in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Now I want to read that verse 14. I want to read that in the NLT. This is chapter 28 of Genesis, verse 14 in the NLT. It says, your descendants will be as numerous as the dust of the earth. They will spread out in all directions, to the west and to the east, to the north and the south, and all the families of the earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. So you can see that his descendants, and we're going to see why that's significant later, his descendants would be spread out throughout the whole world, north, south, east, and the west. And I just want to go back to chapter 22 and take a look at verse 17. It says that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand which is upon the shore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. So I just wanted to go back and read that, because that's exactly what Abraham said to Isaac, that his seed would be blessed and would be spread out throughout the four corners of the earth. So you can see that this is very consistent, and the blessing is being passed on from Isaac to Jacob and not to Esau. I'm going to read verse 18 back in chapter 28. And Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillows and set it up for a pillar, and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of the place Bethel, but the name of that city was called Luz at the first. So I'm going to go to the blue letter and see what the meaning of Bethel is. It says Bethel. It's H, which the H stands for Hebrew, because this is in the Hebrew, 1008. And I'll give you a pronunciation of it.
Bethel. Bethel.
The definition is the house of God, ancient place and the seat of worship, and Ephraim on border of Benjamin, identified with Luz, which is his former name, a place in the south country of Judah, not far from Beersheba and Ziklag. So Jacob knew that the Most High was dwelling there with him. That's why he named it that. And I'm going to go right to the end, which is verse 22. And it says, "And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be the Most High's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the 10th unto thee." Now I wanted to look that up. 10th. I'm looking it up in the blue letter. And I'm even going to read it in the NLT. So this is verse 22 in the NLT. It says, "And this memorial pillar I have set up will become a place for worshiping the Most High, and I will present to the Most High a 10th of everything he gives me." And let's look that word 10th up. And in the Hebrew, it is 8. The letter is H, 6237. We'll get a pronunciation here.
Strong's H 6237. Aser.
So Aser.
Second entry. Esrei. Esrei.
All right, so that means.
Third entry. Esara. Esara.
All right, so that means a 10th. And the definition says to tithe, take the 10th part of, give a tithe, or take a tithe. So that's where the tithe comes from. All right, and I'm not going to go much further on this. We're going to just touch on verse 29, on chapter 29. And in chapter 29, this is where we begin to see that Jacob is going to actually make contact. He's in Haran, and he's going to make contact at a well. And at that well, he's going to run into his kinfolk. And I'm just going to drop straight down to verse 10. So I'm in chapter 29, verse 10. It says, and it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep Laban his mother's brother, that Jacob went near, and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice, and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. So we're seeing the same thing occur all over again, just like when the servant for Isaac had went out and discovered Isaac's kinfolk. When the servant discovered that that was indeed his kinfolk, Rebekah ran back to tell her father who she had run into and what he had said to her. So we see the same thing almost occurring all over again. And I know it says, I'm going to read that again. It says, and Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother. So I want to read that in the NLT, because just the way that reads, that could be kind of confusing. You know? So chapter 29, verse 12 in the NLT. Says, he explained to Rachel that he was her cousin on her father's side, the son of her aunt Rebekah. So Rachel quickly ran and told her father Laban. So there we see that we get an explanation. He was actually the cousin of Rachel. So I want to look that word up. Brother in the Hebrew. We can get a better understanding of why he said he was her brother. And it is H251. And it says Ark. We're going to get the pronunciation of it, and it may be slightly different here because, like I said, a lot of these pronunciations are done in what the small hats call Yiddish. So let's see what their pronunciation is.
Strong's H251. Ach. Ach.
All right, that's consistent. It says the brother of the same parents, half brother, same father. Then it says relative, kinship, same tribe. So that's what would be pertinent here, is that as a relative and a kin, as her kinfolk of the same tribe. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this short here, because we're beginning to see that Jacob has run into his kinfolk, and we'll go further on, Lord willing, in the next lesson and see what happens after he runs into his kinfolk. And we're going to begin to see how the 12 tribes of Israel have become to be. But I'm going to leave it there right now. And I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKadosh. Shalom.